Once upon a time, in a cheerful little village with cobbled streets and tiny colorful rooftops, lived a round and cheerful egg named Humpty Dumpty. Humpty wasn't just any egg, he was curious, kind, and always dreaming about the skies above. Every day, he sat on his favorite brick wall, legs swinging, watching the clouds drift across the wide blue sky. "I wonder what it feels like to touch the clouds," Humpty would whisper to himself with a smile. One day, as the sun warmed the village square, Humpty's best friend, Pip the Sparrow, swooped down beside him. "Good morning, Humpty," chirped Pip. "You look dreamier than usual today." Humpty chuckled. "I was just thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful to ride a balloon up into the sky? To float with the clouds, and maybe even bounce on them." Pip fluttered excitedly. "Then let's build one. A great big balloon. You could fly higher than the rooftops, higher than the hills." Humpty's eyes lit up like sunshine. "Really? You'd help me?" "Of course," said Pip. "Let's ask the villagers for help." And so, their grand adventure began. The very next morning, Humpty and Pip set off through the village, their hearts full of excitement. They visited the bustling marketplace, where sunlight poured through striped awnings and the smell of fresh bread drifted on the breeze. "Excuse me, Lady Goose," Humpty called politely. "Do you have any extra fabric we could use for a balloon?" Lady Goose, who wore spectacles and a pearl necklace, smiled warmly. "Well, I just happen to have a length of red silk I never used. Would that help?" "Oh yes, thank you," Humpty beamed, carefully rolling the fabric. Next, they waddled over to Mr. Mole's sewing shop. The little mole, with tiny glasses and dusty paws, peeked over his workbench. "Blue denim scraps?" he said, scratching his chin. "I've got plenty." With a grunt and a giggle, he passed a bundle of sturdy blue pieces to Pip. "Thank you, Mr. Mole," chirped Pip. "These will help the balloons stay strong." At the corner of the village fountain, 3 playful kittens tumbled over each other, batting at ribbons and cloth. "Would you mind if we used some of those?" Humpty asked gently. The kittens meowed and pushed forward scraps of pink cotton, purring happily. By midday, Humpty and Pip had gathered a rainbow of cloth, red, blue, pink, yellow, and even some shimmering gold thread from the tailor. They returned to Humpty's backyard, their arms and wings full of color. "Now we build," Humpty said with determination. And so they stitched, and patched, and tied, and folded. The balloon began to take shape, big and round and beautiful. It shimmered in the sun like a patchwork dream. Pip perched on a spool of thread, watching proudly as Humpty worked with careful hands. Scissors clicked, buttons scattered, laughter filled the air. By sunset, the balloon was ready. "Tomorrow," Humpty whispered, gazing at it in awe. "Tomorrow, we touch the sky." The next morning dawned bright and golden. Dew sparkled on the rooftops, and a gentle breeze whispered through the village trees. Humpty stood in the yard, gazing up at the balloon, now tethered and ready. He wore his finest vest, blue with yellow buttons, and a matching cap that Pip had stitched just for the occasion. "Are you ready?" Pip asked with a flutter of wings. Humpty took a deep breath. "As ready as an egg can be." They checked the ropes, the basket, and the flame beneath the balloon. Everything was perfect. Slowly, gracefully, the balloon began to rise. First a wiggle, then a hop, then up, up we go, shouted Humpty, his voice full of wonder. The ground grew smaller beneath them. The village square looked like a patchwork quilt of gardens and paths. Children ran out of cottages, waving and laughing. Lady Goose clapped her wings. "Mr. Mole adjusted his glasses and gave a proud nod. Even the kittens meowed in delight as they chased the shadow of the balloon. Pip flew in loops beside the basket, her feathers shining in the sun. "This is amazing, Pip," Humpty laughed. "Look at the rooftops. Look at the trees." They floated higher, into skies so blue they seemed painted. Below them, the winding river sparkled like a ribbon of silver. The trees looked like soft green broccoli, houses like doll houses, horses like tiny toys. Humpty leaned over the edge of the basket, heart full, eyes wide. "I never imagined the world could look like this." Pip chirped joyfully. "And it's only just begun." As they floated gently across the sky, a playful breeze began to stir. It whooshed past the balloon with a soft swirl, tugging gently at the ropes. "Hold on," Pip called out, circling the balloon with a twinkle in her eyes. Humpty gripped the side of the basket as it bobbed and spun, once, then twice, like a teacup on a ride. "Whoa!" Humpty laughed, his cap tilting to the side. "It's like dancing in the air." The breeze giggled through the trees below, making the leaves shimmer and the treetops sway. Below them, the hills rolled like soft green waves. The silver river wound its way through the land like a sleepy snake. And beyond it all, a mysterious stretch of shimmering trees. "Pip, look!" Humpty pointed. "What is that forest?" Pip hovered in midair, eyes wide. "That is the Whispering Woods." The balloon floated closer and closer, drawn by the wind's gentle push. Soft fog curled through the treetops. Leaves glistened like they were sprinkled with stardust. The woods sparkled under a patchy golden light. "It's beautiful," Humpty whispered, resting his chin on the basket's edge. As the balloon drifted over the trees, a hush fell over everything. The world below was silent, enchanted. Even Pip slowed her flapping wings and whispered, "It feels like we're flying through a dream." Just as they floated above the quiet heart of the Whispering Woods, a glimmering light appeared in the sky ahead. It shimmered softly, like sunlight through cotton candy clouds. "Pip," Humpty whispered, "do you see that?" Pip squinted toward the light. "I do. It's moving toward us." Out of the glowing mist came 3 fluffy shapes, round, white, and softly glowing. As they floated closer, Humpty saw their gentle faces, their fuzzy arms, and twinkling eyes. "Cloud bears," Pip gasped. "I've heard of them in stories, but I never thought they were real." The largest of the cloud bears waved a paw with a kind smile. "Hello there, little travelers. Welcome to our skies." Humpty blinked in surprise. You can talk?" The bear chuckled warmly. "Of course. We watch over the clouds. And sometimes, we find special visitors drifting close." The other bears waved joyfully, surrounding the balloon without touching it. "Would you like to bounce on a cloud?" one of them asked, holding out a soft, puffy paw. Humpty looked at Pip, who gave a tiny nod. With a brave breath, Humpty stepped out of the basket and gently landed on the squishiest, fluffiest cloud he had ever felt. It held him like a soft pillow. Then, boing! He bounced high into the air, giggling like a child. Pip zipped around him in circles, leaving a spiral of glowing trails. The cloud bears clapped and cheered, their laughter echoing like gentle thunder. Humpty bounced again and again, his worries floating away with each leap. "I'm flying without wings," he shouted. And for the first time, he felt truly light. After what felt like 100 joyful bounces, Humpty flopped back onto the cloud, breathless and beaming. The cloud bears gathered around, offering gentle high fives and soft giggles. "Thank you," Humpty said. "That was the most fun I've ever had." The largest cloud bear leaned down. Would you like to go home the magical way? Humpty and Pip looked at each other, puzzled. What's the magical way? Pip asked. The clouds above swirled and shimmered, and from them unfurled the most magnificent bridge Humpty had ever seen. A glowing, arched rainbow stretched across the sky, sparkling with every color you could imagine. This, said the bear proudly, is the Rainbow Bridge. It appears only for special travelers. Humpty's eyes grew wide. It's so bright and beautiful. Pip hovered beside him. Can we really slide down it? The cloud bears nodded. It will carry you gently down, all the way to your world. Humpty climbed to the top of the rainbow with Pip fluttering beside him. He looked back one last time, waving to the cloud bears who waved from their cozy clouds. Ready, Pip? Humpty asked. Ready, Pip chirped. With a tiny hop, they began to slide. Down they went, gliding along the rainbow like a ride at the fair. Colors sparkled around them, reds and blues, greens and golds. The air was filled with giggles and glimmers. Below, the world slowly came into view again, the hills, the river, and finally, the little village they called home. The rainbow carried them gently down, lower and lower, until Humpty's feet touched soft grass covered in tiny daisies. He looked around and gasped. It was the flower meadow just outside the village. The hot air balloon floated down behind them, landing softly on the hilltop with a quiet puff. Home, Humpty whispered, placing a hand over his heart. Pip fluttered to his shoulder and nuzzled his cheek. That was the most amazing journey ever. Butterflies danced around them as the warm evening light glowed gold and pink. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with sleepy colors. Humpty took a slow step toward the path, and then another. As they walked back into the village, familiar faces peeked from doors and windows. Lady Goose waved a handkerchief. Mr. Mole tipped his cap. The kittens scampered beside them, tails high. Welcome back, someone called. Did you see the sky? Humpty smiled. We didn't just see it, we danced in it. Pip gave a proud chirp. The village lights began to twinkle as lamps were lit, and the chimneys puffed soft smoke. Children gathered around to hear about the cloud bears, the rainbow slide, and bouncing on clouds. Humpty told each part with wide eyes and happy laughs, while Pip fluttered and twirled above their heads. As the sky darkened and stars began to peek out, the villagers slowly returned to their homes, smiling and waving good night. That night, after a warm supper and a cozy bath, Humpty slipped into his favorite pajamas. The sky outside his window was deep blue, scattered with stars, and the moon was full and glowing. He climbed into bed and pulled up his special quilt, the one with clouds and stars stitched into every corner. Pip fluttered to the windowsill, settling down to keep watch. For a long moment, Humpty just stared out the window, remembering the sky, the breeze, the bears, the rainbow. His heart felt full, and his eyelids grew heavy. I really did touch the sky, he whispered softly. Pip chirped gently, almost like a lullaby. The fireflies blinked outside. The breeze nudged the curtains. The balloon rested quietly in the backyard, its ribbons swaying under the moonlight. And in his little bed, under his soft blanket of stars, Humpty Dumpty smiled, and drifted off into the sweetest dreams. He dreamed of clouds, and colors, and gentle laughter in the sky. And somewhere up above, 3 fluffy cloud bears watched over him, smiling in the night. Good night, Humpty,